ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaskar my dear friends, this is second video on Swami Ramsukhdasji Maharaj's Sadhaka-Sanjivani, a divine commentary on Gita. This video starts with two disciplines of seeking. In a jiva being, there is an ansha element of the conscious God and an ansa of the inert nature, Prakriti. By the dominance of the conscious part, one seeks God, and by the dominance of the inert part, he desires the world. Between these two, the yearning for God could be satisfied, but the desires of the world are never fulfilled. Some worldly desires, seemingly fulfilled, are never satiated, but owing to worldly attachment, ever new desires arise. In fact, the satisfaction of the worldly desires or achievement of worldly objects is not within the authority of desire but is subject to karma. God realization is not under the power of karma, and it is attained by the intense longing of one's own self. Its reason is that each karma act has a beginning and an end. So the result too is bound to have a beginning and an end. How can then a beginningless and endless God be realized by karmas, which are origin and end bound? But seekers have often understood that as the worldly objects are achieved by the predominance of activities, so also the realization of God would be achievable through the dominance of activity. As the assistance of body, senses, mind, and intellect has to be taken in achieving the objects of the world, so also in God realization, the assistance of body, senses, mind, intellect will have to be called for the argu. Therefore, such seekers practice spiritual discipline erroneously with the help of their inert body, etc., to realize God. By practicing the yoga of meditation for a long time, that is, gracefully fixing one's mind on God, when the chitta mind gets controlled, having no worldly attachment and being incapable of realizing God due to inertness, it becomes unconcerned with the world. On the chitta mind becoming unconcerned, the seeker becomes completely cut off from the mind or inertness, and he gains experience of Godhead automatically. Gita, 6th chapter, 20th verse. But a seeker who, having accepted his axiomatic and external union with God from the beginning, without accepting in the least his kinship with inert matter, traverses the course of his discipline. He experiences the Supreme Tattva, essence, early and with ease. Thus, for seekers who wish to realize God, there are two disciplines or ways of seeking Him. The discipline in which there remains dominance of antahkarna, the inner faculty, that is wherein a seeker observes discipline with the assistance of matter, which goes by the name of karna sapeksha sali, discipline aided by the inner faculty. The second discipline, in which the seeker from the very beginning follows the discipline by himself without the assistance of matter, is called Karna Nirpeksha Sali, discipline unaided by the inner faculty. God realization in both these disciplines take place only by Karna Nirpekshta, that is by one's own self, after a complete breach with matter. Realization via Karna Sapeksha Sali comes very late, whereas it happens immediately through Karna Nirpeksha Sali. There are four main differences between these two disciplines of seeking God. Number one, assistance of matter, body, senses, mind, intellect has to be taken in the Karnaspexia Sali, but no such assistance is necessary in the Karna Nirpeksha Sali. Instead, the assumed relationship with the matter is to be sundered or broken up. Second, there is creation of a new state of mind in the Karna Sapeksha Sali, but there is a realization after breach with all states of mind in the Karna Nirpeksha Sali. Third, there is in the discipline aided by the instrument Karna Speksha Sali an acquisition of occult powers, siddhis, but in the discipline unaided by the instrument Karna Nirpeksha Sali, there is a direct and intuitive experience of reality on severance of relationship with matter. Fourth, God realization in the discipline aided by the inner faculty is never immediate, but in the discipline unaided by the instrument, God realization siddhi is immediate as soon as a breach with matter is complete, either after surrendering to God or on being established in the sense, in the self. In the Yoga Darshana of Patanjali, importance is given to discipline aided by the Antahakarna in the realization of yoga, but in the Gita, importance is attached only to discipline unaided by the faculty in the realization of yoga siddhi. It is alright if the mind gets it tuned to God, but if it is not so tuned, then nothing happens. This is the basis of the discipline aided by the inner faculty. Whether or not mind is attuned to God, it does not matter, but one's self should be attached to God. This reflects the discipline unaided by the inner faculty. The import and implication of all this is that in the Karna Nirpeksha Sali, there is direct relation of the self with God with a total breach of ties with the mind intellect complex. Therefore, realization in the Karna Sapeksha Sali is affirmed by practice, but there is no need for any other steps in the Karna Nirpeksha Sali. The reason is that there is axiomatic eternal union, Nitya Yoga with God. Thus, there is no necessity of any practice in believing or knowing one's unitive relation with God, just as on accomplishment of marriage, when a woman accepts a man as her husband, she needs to do nothing further in so believing. So also on being told by someone that here is Gangaji, no further exercise is to be done even to realize it. In the Karna Nirpeksha Sali, the primacy is only of knowing Viveka and believing Bhava. If one says, I have no relation with inertness, body, etc. at all, even without such an experience, if a seeker firmly believes in this from the very outset, then also such a realization clearly dawns upon him, as he was in bondage under the mistaken belief that I am the body and the body is mine. So too, by cultivating the right belief that I am not the body and the body is not mine, a seeker becomes liberated because as a principle, by not relying on the accepted belief, it tends to melt away. God has clearly told us in the Gita that an ignorant person accepting his link with the body regards himself as the doer of things that happens. Eh karnvimim dhatma karta dhamiti mayante. But an enlightened person does not regard himself as the doer of those activities. Neva kinchit karomiti yukto manyata tattvit. It means, therefore, that to root out a false belief, it is necessary to stress a true belief. I am a Hindu, I am a Brahmana, I am a Sadhu, etc. Such beliefs become so firm that until man does not give these up by himself, no one else can make him change his belief. Similarly, the belief that I am the body, I am the doer, etc., also becomes so firm that it is difficult for a seeker to give these up. But these worldly beliefs, being unreal and untrue, are not everlasting and are instead changeable. As against these beliefs, such as I am not the body, I am God's, etc., being real and true, are never lost. But there is only a degree of forgetfulness, a turning of back on these. Therefore, a real belief on becoming firmly rooted does not remain as mere belief but is transmuted into a realized awareness experience. Though discipline aided by inner faculty has been described in the Gita as in 4th chapter 24th verse and 30 30th verse, 6th chapter 10th, 28th and 8th chapter 8th and 16, 15th chapter 11 stanza, etc. Yet discipline unaided by inner faculty alone has been described with great emphasis as in chapter 2, 48th and 55th verse, chapter 3, 17th verse, chapter 4, 38th verse, chapter 5, 12th verse, first half, 6th chapter, 5th verse, 9th chapter, 30th and 31st verse, 12th chapter, 12th, 18 and 62 verse, 66 and 73, etc. The reason is firstly that God desires that seekers should realize Him early and easily. In the second place, Arjuna has sought from Him the means of his own salvation on being confronted with a situation of war. Thus, the discipline unaided by the faculty alone could be of use for his salvation. Because by this discipline of karna nirpeksha sali, man can achieve his salvation under all circumstances, even while carrying out his activities according to scriptural injunctions of karma. Only through this discipline, without any practice, Arjuna's delusion was ended and memory of his real self revived. Chapter 18, verse number 73. The discipline unaided by the inner faculty is useful for all in equal measure because there is no necessity for any special ability, condition, etc. in this discipline. By developing an intense desire for God realization and immediate separation from matter being accomplished, the eternal God is realized. Just as many years' darkness might be eliminated by merely kindling a candle, so also a very old relationship with matter of countless births there might be is cut off by a strong and keen yearning for God realization. Therefore, this intense yearning is a much higher state than even samadhi, a state of meditative poise born of karna sapeksta. There is even a deviation from the highest state of nirvikalpa samadhi into routine behavior as with a beginning and an end of samadhi also. So long as there is a beginning and an end, there exists an affinity for matter. On renunciating the tie with matter, then seeking spiritual discipline with the beginning and no end instead, there arises the realization of an eternal union with God. In reality, there was never a disunion viyoga with God, and this is not even possible. Separation from God appears only by an assumed relationship with the with the world. Sanyoga, a man intensely eager for God realization, realizes God immediately after renouncing the assumed link with the world and merges with Him. Till there exists a tie with inertness, two states do often because changeable as it is, the inert nature never remains uniform. Thus, these two states of entry into the exit from equipoise, samadhi, and vinhana Vyunhana arise out of their tie with inertness. On severance of a tie with inertness, what remains is Sahaj Avastha, eternal stateless state which is called Sahaja Samadhi by the saints. There is then no relapse or return from it. If it were possible to have direct God realization with the discipline aided by instrument Chittavirti Nirodha, then the Vibhuti Pada wherein Siddhi are described of Patanjali Yoga Darshana would have been futile. Those siddhis or powers which are acquired by the discipline aided by instrument are hurdles in the path of God realization. Even in the Patanjali Yoga Darshana, the siddhis are regarded as obstacles. That is, the siddhis are obstacles in the attainment of samadhi and are powers during Vyuthana, behavioral world. On being called by the gods, guarding the directions by offering temptations of the enjoyments of their realms. Neither should one have attachment for them, nor should one take pride in them, because in doing so there is again a possibility of the loss of realization, anisra, or a fall. In fact, no worldly illustration is completely befitting pertaining to the matter of knowing or believing in God. The reason is that in believing or knowing the world, there is the association of mind and intellect, but in believing and knowing, there is no association of mind and intellect at all, meaning thereby that God's experience is the realization by one's own self, not by mind intellect. Secondly, the act of believing and knowing the world has a beginning and an end, but there is no such beginning and end in believing and knowing God. Reason being that there is no relation of our being with the world at all, whereas our relation with God is since the very beginning and will always be so. Even the need to purify the inner faculty arises only in the karna speksha sali and not in the karna nirpeksha sali. As when a pen is good, writing can be excellent, but that does not improve the writer. So also on the inner faculty being pure, activities could be pure, but not the mind of the doer. The doer becomes pure on a breach of the tie with the inner faculty, because the very belief in one's kinship with this is the root of impurity. Axiomating is Jiva's, the being's eternal union yoga with the ever available Nitya Prapta God. Thus, there is no need for any instrument for his realization. Only the sight needs to be turned towards that side, as it is observed in Sri Ramacharitamanasa, Sankara Sahaja Sarupa Samhara, meaning Lord Sankara contemplated on the nature of his own self, turned his looks into himself. A thing looked at is perceived by us only by turning the gaze to it, and it becomes known to be there in the same way by simply discerning it. Nitya Yoga is experienced, but on account of desire, expectation, and enjoyment of worldly pleasures, a great difficulty is felt in turning our sight or attention towards it, and in realizing it till the mind remains tied to the acquisition and enjoyment of worldly objects. There is no capacity in man to turn his gaze towards his real self. If by any reason, chance, or perception the gaze happens to be directed toward the self, it would be extremely difficult to hold it there permanently. The reason is that intense endearment, priyata, for destructible materials, which resides in the heart, does not permit the understanding of one's eternal and obvious relationship with God. And even if it is well comprehended, it does not allow its stability. If intense longing prevails, the reality tattva is realized, then this longing has the power to destroy the very attachment for the world. All the three yogas, Karam Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, spoken of in the Gita, are realizable through the discipline of sadhana, karna, nirpeksha, that is, through one's own self. As the activity and material are neither ours nor for ourselves, instead, these belong to others and are meant for the service of others. The belief or thought thus discriminately arrived at that I am not the body, nor is the body mine, I am God's and God is mine, is not born of the discipline aided by antahkarna and body etc. practice, because it involves a breach of the tie with matter. Thus, in Karma Yoga, the seeker himself gives up his relationship with inertness. In Jnana Yoga, the seeker realizes his own self, and in Bhakti Yoga, the seeker surrenders himself to God. In this Sadhaka-Sanjivani commentary on the Gita, two primary importance is given to the discipline unaided by inner faculty, because this commentary has been written keeping in view the way a seeker's salvation is attained easily and without delay. Apropos this commentary, since my early age, Swami Ramsukhdasji is describing. Since my early age, I had a special interest in the Gita, meditative introspection on the Gita, and association with and utterance of saints and great souls have been of immense help to me in understanding the real import of the Gita. The Gita brims with ideas infinite and astounding, which provide great satisfaction. The ability to understand these ideas fully and express these with perfection is not within my power. But when certain Gita loving gentle persons pressed me hard and especially urged me, then I felt like preparing a commentary on the Gita with the object that its hidden heart-touching ideas, marmika bhava, may be revealed to me so that others also may in turn introspect and meditate upon these, and these ideas may become intelligible to them too. First, a commentary on the 12th chapter was written, which was published in Vikarma Samvat 2030 under the name of Gita Ka Bhakti Yoga. A few years later, a commentary on the 13th and 14th chapters was dictated, which was published in Vikarma Samvat 2035 as Gita Ka Gyan Yoga. A thought arose thereafter that since there are three yogas, Karam Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, it would be more appropriate if three books were prepared on the three yogas. With this in view, a commentary on the 12th chapter was recast, enlarged, and combined with the commentary of the 15th chapter, which was published in Vikarma Samvat 2039 as Gita Ka Bhakti Yoga, second edition. Then a commentary on the third, fourth, and fifth chapter was dictated, which was published in two volumes under the title Gita Ka Karma Yoga. Its delayed publication came in Vikarma Samvat 2040. A different kind of format, Shelley, was followed in the after mentioned three books, Gita Ka Bhakti Yoga, Gita Ka Jnana Yoga, and Gita Ka Karam Yoga. The order adopted in them was first the context Sambandha, then the verse Shloka, then the emotional import Bhava, next the analysis of the verse Anvaya, and last the Pada-wise commentary. After the publication of these three volumes, the format was again changed in the following order: first the context, then the verse, and last the commentary. In making the change, the inspiration came from others also. The idea behind this change was that the reading material should be reduced a little and set out early so that the readers would not have to spend more time in reading, and that the book was prepared speedily to reach the readers early. With this framework, the commentary on the 16th and the 17th chapters was got readily first. This was published in Vikarma Samvat 2039 under the name of Gita Ki Sampatti or Shraddha. A commentary on the 18th chapter was prepared thereafter, which was also published in 2039 under the title Gita Ka Sara. After the commentary on the 16th, 17th, and 18th chapters was completed, someone suggested that it would be better if the meaning of the slokas was also provided. For if the reader first grasped the meaning of the sloka, it would be easier for him to follow the commentary. Thus, in the second edition of Gita Ki Sampatti or Shraddha, Vikram Samvat 2040, the meaning of slokas was also added. With the addition of the meaning of the verses, a change in the order of the commentary on the padas was also introduced. Later, a commentary on the 10th and 11th chapters was prepared and published under the name of Gita Ki Vibhuti or Visvarupa Darshan. Then followed a commentary on the 7th, 8th and 9th chapters, which was published as Gita Ki Raja Vidya. Thereafter came a commentary on the 6th chapter, which was published as Gita Ka Dhyan Yoga. Last was dictated a commentary on the 1st and 2nd chapters, which was published as Gita Ka Arambha. All these four books were published in Vikrama Samvat 2041. It was thus that by the grace of God a commentary on the whole of Gita was published by the Gita Press in 10 separate volumes. In its publication, several difficulties of paper, etc., continued to arise, but with the effort of Satsangi brothers, the work of publishing these went on satisfactorily. The public also accepted these books with enthusiasm and pleasure, with the result that several books underwent 2 or 3 editions. The present commentary has not been dictated sitting at one place, and the order of dictation has also not been systematic from the first chapter to 18th. Therefore, many variations may appear from the pre and post Purupara view between the first and the last chapter, but seekers will feel no difficulty in it anywhere. At some places, a difference in interpretation might also appear, but in that of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, all the three are independently instrumental in God realization, and there is no real difference. The primary feeling, bhava, while dictating the commentary has been as to how early the seekers could be benefited. For this reason, there has been a change in its language, diction, etc. in this commentary. In this, the interpretation of many slokas is contrary to other commentaries, but the intention is not in the least to show that other commentaries are wrong. Instead, I have interpreted the verses as seemed non-controversial after corresponding to the context, rational, viable, satisfying, and dear to me. There has never been my intention of anyone's refutation or confirmation. The meaning of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is very profound. By its reading, its teaching, introspection, meditation, and contemplation, unique, strange, and ever new ideas and emotions continues to arise, whereby the mind and intellect being thrilled become contented while the dictating this commentary. Whenever the mood to capture these emotions arose, a strange flood of thought used to overwhelm me as to how and which of the ideas should I relate, and I used to find myself at bay in this regard. Yet, with the help of my associates and respect-worthy friends, and at their behest and persuasion, I could dictate something. They used to write down those ideas, and after a revision, these were briefly published in the form of books. Thereafter, whenever there arose occasions to scan through these books, several of discrepancies seemed to have crept into them, and it appeared that all the ideas had not been included and many had been left out. So revisions and enlargements continue to be made in these from time to time. Therefore, our readers are requested to accept and give appropriate importance only to contents written later instead of comments made earlier. The commentary on the whole Gita being in several separate volumes, a difficulty was felt in their revision and publication, and in obtaining all of these volumes together. Keeping this in view, the commentary on the whole Gita has been published now in one single volume in the form of the present present book. Before doing this, the whole commentary published earlier has again been looked into, and necessary revisions, alterations, and enlargements have also been introduced. The commentary on the 13th and 14th chapters has been revised. Care has also been taken to maintain the uniformity of language and direct diction. Many things which were deemed unnecessary have been omitted, many new matters have been inserted, and many others have been shifted from one place to appropriate place elsewhere. Matters which have been variously repeatedly have also been omitted as far as possible, though not completely. Repetition deserving special attention and considered useful for seekers has not been omitted. Several shortcomings are still possible in this book, for which I seek the reader's pardon. With folded hands, readers are also requested to kindly intimate any mistakes they may come across. This will facilitate rectification in future editions. A compendium of research articles of new and novel themes pertaining to the Gita has been prepared separately and published under the title Gita Darpana. So I end this video here. Next video will continue. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar my dear friends. Namaskar. Namaste.